Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Riccardo.
Andy, I hope you don't mind if I catch up with my old boss for a second here. I have
Please
to
go right ahead.
tell
I
him a
love
couple
hearing.
funny. It's just really weird because I go to this coffee shop all the time where I live in Worcester County, Massachusetts. And this morning, one of the women says, "Someone left this for you behind the counter." And I open up, it's a photocopy of the Ronnie Montrose
Oh,
mean like cassette. It's just a photocopy. And they're like, "Yeah, they left it here because your name's on it." I thought that was hilarious.
That's
that was
very.
a good album. And I remember Ronnie being a really nice guy. And he had one of those very first personal organizers, that little digital thing where you put phone numbers and stuff into. This would have been around like 1990 or something. Um,
86.
was it that early,
Yeah.
Ronnie?
Yep.
Okay.
That early. I'll never forget when we did the deal. You told me he's getting the highest royalty rate of any record we've ever had because it was like a P&D deal, I think, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I have to ask you a couple things about the old days, Bill. Now, Green World, correct me if I'm wrong, it's named after the Brian Eno album, Another Green World. Is that right?
Yes.
I thought so. What about Enigma?
It just came out of thin air.
And you knew it was going to be an enigma before you even started.
Yeah. And actually, I think the most clever name we came up with was the UK company we set up that my brother ran for a while called Normal Distribution. And if you've knew anything about mathematics or statistics, there is such a thing as a normal distribution curve. And we thought that was so clever, and our stationery was graph paper with a little, normal distribution curve. No one ever got the joke, and the company is totally forgotten. But
Now, you were really a big Brian Eno fan back then, weren't you?
yes, in fact, let me show off something that I still have on my desk. Hang on.
So was it you that actually came up with it was you at that time was you, Wes, and Steve Boudreau, right?
Yeah,
And you just showed up one day and said, "We're going to call our company Green World."
yeah.
Nice. Who's Peter Schmidt?
These are the oblique strategy cards.
Oh, wow.
First edition from what, 1975, which I bought because I was in the Eno fan club, which was called Innovations. There was a newsletter and everything. No, I was a big Brian Eno fan.
Well,
Uh,
I was so young back then when I worked for you that I didn't have any knowledge of a lot of music at all, except I knew about American bands. But as time goes on, with Roxy Music and Bowie and everything that Eno has done over the years, he's a genius. So when people ask me that question, I never knew about the Enigma. I just figured it must have just said we're going to be because the label kind of was an Enigma in a way.
yeah. And, Brian's a real polymath, and I always found that very interesting. Considered himself a non-musician, although that was less true over the years. When I was at Rykodisc, we did a couple of records with Brian, which was delightful to work with him, and distributed his label Opal for a while. Great memory of visiting him in his studio, which is in a Muse Street in London. And it was interesting. It was like a library. It had like library shelves and rows, huge amount of books. And then for I think something he was working on, he had like boom boxes hanging from cables all over. Um, so I don't know, experimenting with surround sound or something, but really nice guy, very interesting to work with. And oddly, the studio vocal record he did for Rykodisc, trying to remember the name of it. It was the first song album he had done in quite a long time. It's never gone back in print. You can't find it streaming. I don't know whatever happened to that album. I need to dig up my CD copy because you cannot hear it online. Um, anyways, That's a tangent.
You you can't beat you can't beat Brian Eno talk. Um, so Andy, what's your musical background, and maybe lead it right up to how you met Bill and how you guys ended up Flatiron, I guess was the first thing, right?
Pressing business was the first thing, actually, the pressing plan. But I moved to San Francisco in 1981 from LA. Uh, so many of my high school friends or people that I knew from high school went down to San Diego. I'm like, I'm going north. So moved up to San Francisco and kind of fell into the punk rock scene there. Ended up working for a bunch of clubs and at the Quake radio station, DJ'd at KUSF, and just fleshed out that world really. And then in 1986-ish, the station was sold. We all got fired, and I wasn't smart enough to ask anybody, ask Howie Klein for a job. And so I went off in a totally different direction. And then in 2012, 2011, moved to Boulder, and then started a company. And then in 2019, was asked to be the CEO along with Bill to I was asked to help work with Bill and bring a company called Amazing Radio, which was an online indie radio station from England to the US. And so we did that, and that's where I met Bill. And then when we did, and that project ended, we joined forces. He had met the guy, and he'll tell you about the pressing plant, but he brought me in to help with the pressing plant. And from there, we're like, oh, we should have a record label because we have capacity. And then we started Flatiron, and then we started Label 51 as the alternative version of Flatiron. So
Yeah,
that's the short, long story.
yeah, and there's a little bit of Enigma DNA in Label 51. It's very eclectic, kind of relies on gut instinct more than market research to do its signings, which we always did at Enigma. It's just like, I don't know, does this seem like do we like this? And that was our deliberative process back then. Worked a lot, sometimes didn't work. Um,
I've carried Enigma through my whole life because it was my first job. So, I mean, I have so many memories of so many things. I was a wild stallion back then. Wes wrote me about a year ago. He wrote me a message out of nowhere. He goes, "Just want to thank you." Like, what? It came like out of nowhere. And I was explaining to him that, I was so immature and crazy back then that I have like I think about how nuts I was, but we did so much. We were putting out like at least 8 releases a month, man. We were like a machine, man. That's what I remember about it. And then the Capitol deal happened after that. It was just great memories. I just went backwards again. Sorry. That was bound to happen, Andy, that I would,
No, I trust me, I totally understand. We've Label 51 has mined the Enigma catalog. We have Rain Parade. We did a Dream Syndicate project. We have uh, who else? Couple artists that we just signed that I can't talk about yet. And then from San Francisco days, we Sister Double Happiness. We just released a remastered debut album from them, and Frightwig, one of the original pre-Riot
oh,
Grrrl bands.
yeah.
So we've been mining our past along with having great new artists that we just have fallen in love with.
yeah, our art director is John Kropp, who I met through Red Cross. So,
Wow.
and speaking of the old days, saw Red Cross in Boulder a couple months ago, and they were great. Um, they were playing with the Melvins. Of they now have overlapping membership in
They
those
share a
bands.
member. Yeah. That-
Sure, two members. Um, two guys play the rhythm section's the same now for both bands, at least touring.
Wow.
And well, that brings up a topic too that's interesting. There have been so many books lately um, that somehow reference the 80s, the indie rock scene. They either talk about Enigma or some of the artists on Enigma. And I'm kind of blown away by how many of these books are coming out. They're still coming out. There was that one, well, the Red Cross book was a really interesting read. lot of anecdotes in there, which I'd forgotten about. Um, like how Jeff and Steve McDonald would prank call Enigma and pretend to be like Brett Michaels or something.
Who put them up to that? Bill Bartel?
No, we and I guess there's a Bartel documentary coming.
Yeah.
So
I got
you
one.
know,
Go ahead, sorry.
oh, and they talked about why they didn't sign to Enigma because you remember we had a deal with them, and because we had done a P&D on the Gasatanka Teen Babes album,
Yep.
which is a great album, still my favorite album
Good
by
one.
Red Cross. And the inspiration for a couple projects we've done at Label 51 and Flatiron recently. I'm encouraging artists to do cover albums. It's like they're so much fun. And it kind of goes back to Teen Babes being such a blast. So we had a deal with them and we gave them money to go on tour. And they came back and refused to go forward with the contract and ended up signing with Big Time. And
I remember that.
the reason, and it's in the book, I never knew this before. Um, they were mad that we were giving Poison $25,000 and only offering them 10. And they took that personally. So they apologized for that. Anyways, what could have been,
Uh,
right?
well, I got one for you. I read Duff McKagan's book, and he's talking about having a meeting at Restless Records in Long Beach, which he could have got the town wrong. But the funny thing about it is we never had a meeting with Duff McKagan at Restless Records. And I'm like, he had to be thinking of a different label or something because I remember when I met those guys because Tawn Mastery, I don't know if you remember her, the
Yeah,
DJ.
yeah.
She took me out one night. She picked me up one night at my apartment when I was living in El Segundo, and I get in the car and Axl Rose was in the back seat. And this is before they signed. Well, they were getting ready to sign with Geffen at that time. So I think a lot of these guys these books are going to have facts screwed up because Julie called me up about a band. I can't remember. She read something in a book that drove her crazy, Julie Chrysler, but I can't remember what band it was because it was completely wrong about what the
Yeah.
story got completely twisted, you know?
Yeah, I did a podcast with I think it was called Other Side of the Coin. That's very Kiss focused
Three sides of
recently.
three
Oh,
sides
three
of
sides of the coin. That's right, because there's three hosts. And they're saying, what are the ones that got away that you wish you'd signed? And Screaming Trees was one because we were very close to that deal. And that would have been well timed because that was a period where Enigma was kind of, Poison was slowing down, Stryper was slowing down. Screaming Trees would have launched us into the millions
Yeah.
in a really nice way. And, you know, so
It's
that's
a
a
great
bummer.
ca it's a
Yeah,
great catalog though.
but I
It's a
remember
great.
we had a shot at Jane's Addiction and we just fumbled that. It was the Triple X guys, where I think more or less they'd released the EP and we were going to reissue it. And I forget why that went away, but Guns N' Roses, oh gosh, trying to think if there was something. They were managed at the time by a guy who had been the original head of sales at Grain World, um, who also managed Great White, Alan Nevin.
Oh, Alan Niven. Okay.
And I don't think Alan was very fond of Enigma, so I would have been surprised if he had shopped it by. Um,
Well, they mentioned he mentions Restless in the book, and all I'm thinking, we started Restless and I think it was September of '85, something like that. And I would have remembered if we had a meeting with Guns N' Roses. I mean, even if Scott had a meeting with we were doing everything together back then. We were like a group always, you know. And so I was like just surprised when I read that in the book. Did you
yeah,
guys go ahead?
well, I remember them being around and that first EP, and I saw at least one of the early shows that wasn't very good. It was kind of chaotic, but not in a good chaotic. It was just chaotic. Um, and it was in their Hairspray days. They were still very glammed up. But you never see that stuff coming. I mean, there were so many Sunset Strip bands around then. It was kind of hard to keep track.
It was wild. 1984 was a wild year. I'll never forget it, man. Could you guys imagine around, say, 2000 to 2005 that you'd be putting out records now because of the way everything just completely died?
Well, I was at Rykodisc 2002 to 2006. Um, then 2 years at Caroline at EMI. So that was the year of, every year the business like going down 10%. It was semi-depressing. And I don't remember any really strong, there wasn't like punk rock or grunge or any big thing happening. There was a lot of good music around, but there wasn't some big driver scene, thing that just galvanized people. And everyone was so depressed over file trading and, where's the music business going to go? So those were kind of semi-depressing years.
See,
And
I was at A&M went right before the big layoff. I had left. And like literally months later, all of a sudden 300 people were laid off. And it was like, wow. It was just crazy. That was around 2000, I think, right around 99, 2000, after Napster.
yeah, and like Island more or less disappeared or it became a division of Universal. And when you see some of the greatest independent labels of all time, like Island and A&M and eventually Virgin not being able to keep going, it's pretty humbling. Like, wow, if those can't make it, and now you look at the world, three major labels, right? But then on the other hand, a billion independent labels and lots of independent artists. And I want to hand the microphone to Andy because that's one of the things that got me interested in the music business again. I took a few years off, post Caroline, and I was at Live Nation for a little while, and that was a little depressing. Um, and I just thought, I don't know, I'm too old for this fucking business. I don't get it. Just there's no place for me in this business anymore. So good luck to the rest of you. And I never thought I would come back. But you think back to the 80s, we would have people like Screaming Trees knocking on our door because there was like five places. If a major label didn't want to sign you, um, there were like five places to go. Now there's like 1,000, right? And that is so different. Well, the other thing, and again, I think that one of the reasons we're talking today, if vinyl hadn't made a comeback, I don't think I'd be interested in the music business.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to run a record label or services business that was just doing streaming. And I don't mind streaming. I have a Spotify and Apple Music subscription and I listen a lot, but I still love vinyl and I don't hate CDs. Um, and I wouldn't, it's so important to me to have that physical product. I don't think I could get the motivation just to be, you know, to have this thing be the end all be all of all music. It just wouldn't hold my attention. And I love the interplay with the artist talking about the design of the album cover and the liner notes and
Hmm.
proofreading and getting the test pressings. I mean, I really find joy in that. And, getting a bunch of files sent to me, in Dropbox, it's not the same as holding a test pressing, right?
Wasn't this like the first year that the Grammys gave out a Best Album Artwork award? When I saw that, I was like, I've never seen that before. They haven't been doing that regularly, have they?
I have no idea.
They gave out an award for Best Album Cover, and I was
I
like,
lost
wow.
interest in the Grammys when the artists we were pitching for Grammy consideration didn't get nominated. So fuck the Grammys.
Yeah, I don't like the Grammys either. I didn't even watch it, but I think I watched the intro because I like to hear the intro part. Um, so let's talk about Flatiron for a couple of minutes because I spent a little time Tony Levin. I was like, okay. And of course,
Oh,
let's
you have
see.
to make the Boston connection. So
I was
that's
going to say, you got to know that when I saw the Boston Rocks song on there and Mike Portnoy and Earl Slick, I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. And then Steve Hunter plays on a track too. I love him. And I was just like, that is so cool that you guys, well, I mean, you got Alex Skolnick from Testament, Sixpence None the Richer, Blue Cheer. But I look at the list and I see Tony Levin and it just sticks out. Talk about Tony Levin a little bit. How'd that happen?
um, well, we distribute a label called Moon June. Guy I've known, Leonardo. Um, I've known him for like 30 years. Who just knows everything about prog rock and everybody. Um, he's more or less a full-time agent and runs a record label and puts on a music festival,
And
which is
ships all the records.
his and his distribution center is literally his basement. Um, and he's a wonderful guy, and everyone loves Leonardo. His his label Moon June had artist Stickman, which is if you love King Crimson and you've never heard of Stickman, please check them out, like right after this podcast. Um, Tony is in Stickman playing the Chapman stick, of course, and I met Tony going to a couple Stickman shows, and I was just blown away by the musicianship. Again, it's King Crimson level musicianship, um, and Tony said, "Oh, I've got a solo project I've been working on. Would you mind hearing it?" It's like, would I mind hearing it? No, I wouldn't mind hearing it, Tony. And he'd been working on it for years and years and years. And pretty much every track has different guests. And he's quite an accomplished photographer. If you've ever seen the books he published
Yeah,
of like King Crimson backstage and pictures he takes from the stage, also pictures. If you've seen a Peter Gabriel show, Tony pulls out his camera at some point and takes pictures of other musicians in the audience. Um, so there was like a photo that went with each song. And it's kind of, I called it a musical autobiography, which it kind of was because it touches upon, Boston rocks. It really serves as kind of an autobiography. Um, and so we were able to be the label that put the record out. It's got a wonderful reception, continues to sell well, and then had the very good fortune that the Beat Tour kind of went out right as we were releasing it.
Yep.
And that was a monster. I saw two of the Beat shows and they were insanely great. Um, got to talk to Steve Vai afterwards of the show, which was nice.
that's cool.
He remembered that Enigma tried to sign him for his Flexible album, um, back when he was literally living at the Zappa house. Um, and I asked him, how come we were not able to sign you? I really wanted to. He said, I thought my music was too weird for you. And it's like, too weird for Enigma. You were not paying attention. Anyways, that's the Tony Levin story. And what a lovely man. What an amazing musician. And God, everyone loves him and his music and respects him. And he's, if you've seen him on stage, he doesn't miss a step. He's 79.
Wow.
You know,
And the record is fantastic. Of course, I went on Discogs because I was wondering how many records he had out. And I was like, oh my God, he's got a list a mile long.
oh
But
yeah.
this record, I checked out your Bandcamp page and you could see how many people actually are buying it. And there was more, 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 more. I went, great. It's fantastic. Happy for you guys, man. And is there like this? Tell me about what you're calling the difference between Flatiron and Label 51.
I'll hand that to Andy.
So we started off, Flatiron was doing these big releases and classic, the legacy stuff, the Blue Cheers and things like that, Sixpence. And then we realized that Label 51 had some artists that really didn't fit in the Flatiron world. So we started Label 51 to put those artists there. And then recently split the labels, and Flatiron is becoming a music services, a P&D, music distribution, the pressing plant, all that kind of stuff. So they handle physical distribution and promotion. Label 51 has become the artist development label. And working with, like I said before, the artists that we mentioned, Wall of Voodoo, Prairie Prince has a new album coming out through us. So it's just taken on separate lives.
If you look at that roster and you see Sid Griffin, the Long Riders, and
Yeah,
then you see Dream Syndicate and Rain Parade and Wall of Voodoo, I'm like, did Enigma reform?
I
Because it
know,
kind of
right?
has an Enigma. It feels like Enigma Records.
I was a huge fan of Enigma, back in the day, obviously, and Bill and I have such similar musical tastes in that world that it just became we both like the same stuff and we both have the same respect for those artists, and we love having them on our label. We just think it's the biggest kick.
And of
Yeah,
course, I remember Frightwig because they were one of the early Riot Girl bands. I checked out their redistribution of wealth.
Uh-huh.
Wow,
Yeah.
heavy, heavy song, man.
Song, and it was great. We got the other side mad, and which was phenomenal. We had a good time on the social media, uh, pushing back on those guys. And then the other one, War on Women, is another one that's just, you know, so topical, so topical.
yeah, I
And
think AOC should be playing redistribution of wealth on the campaign trail when she runs for president.
yes.
So she is running for president. My sister
Oh, she
asked me
clearly
yesterday.
she clearly is running for president.
My
Yes.
sister asked me yesterday, who would you vote for? And I said AOC. I did. I'm like I'm a democratic socialist anyway. So I mean, I'm about as far left as you can go. So, but yeah, Frightwig, and then Vicky Peterson I didn't mention too because was that Bangles EP the original? That wasn't on Enigma, but I think it was
No,
distributed.
that was on Faulty Products, I think.
Faulty Products, but we distributed at Green World. That's why I remember, because I got Annette Zelinkis's autograph on my copy because we were working with Blood on the Saddle, and they came
Yeah,
in and I had a copy and she signed it for me. I still have that. I have all my old Enigma
yeah.
records, by the way.
Label 51 did a Vicky Peterson album with John Cowsill, her husband, last year, which is a delightful album.
Oh, they're married. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah,
30 years or something. Long time.
they ought to have their own like variety
Comedy.
TV show because they're the most amusing couple. I mean, their onstage patter is just, the music's great, but you see them live and they're joking back and forth, and it's quite charming. Uh, Please catch the show when they come to your town.
Yeah,
I know,
I've
it's
always.
one of those things. I bumped Vicky. Rain Parade were opening for Dream Syndicate a couple of years ago on a UK tour,
Wow.
and I caught a couple of the shows. And Andy, you were at one of those shows, one or
Yeah,
two.
we were at the pub show, the opening
So,
show.
Vicky was standing in as touring guitar player for Dream Syndicate on that tour, and I hadn't talked to Vicky in like 35 years or something. Um, I think I hadn't talked to her since we did the Rainy Day album, right? Uh,
Rainy Day.
which is an album I'd love to reissue.
Kendra Smith's name just popped into my head. She had something to
Yeah,
do with Rainy Day, right? Yeah.
yeah, it was her and David Roback.
David Roback. Yep.
And I think one of the reasons the rights are kind of tied up is I think she co-owns it with David's estate. Who knows? Uh, so, well, was talking to Vicky backstage after one of the shows, and we were just talking about the old days, right? And actually, Green World distributed the first Bangs single. Um, you know, I say distributed. I mean, we would sell like 50 copies and call up someone, and like Vicky or Debbie would come down with their, have their mom drive to our warehouse in Torrance and deliver like 50 more singles. Um, I remember, and I said, I related that to her. I said, is this a false memory, or did your mom really drive you down to bring the singles? She said, oh, yeah, I remember that. So, reconnected with Vicky. And when she had the record with John, she brought it to us. And so, it's just the network. I guess it's because I'm in touch with, people I knew from way back then. And Andy's in touch with the people he knows from, quote, the old days. And if the people are still making great music, it's like, bring it on, right?
I love your roster, man. I do, and you know what? You built relationships with a lot of these people, and I could see how that can happen. When I lived in Marina Del Rey after Enigma, I was neighbors with Steve Wynn. So I used to see Steve all the time. And when he came to play in Boston, when I moved back here, I went and saw him again, and he let me put a band that I was working with on the bill with him, and he's a good guy. When what's going on with the what do you have planned for Dream Syndicate? Did
Well,
you
that
reissue?
that was a one-off because they're signed to Fire in the UK, a label I quite admire.
Good
Um,
label.
really
Yeah,
good
great.
label. And for one reason or another, Fire wasn't interested in the live record, so we were able to put it out. Um, Happily so. Um, but I think, they're happy with Fire, and I just hope they keep making records. And Fire's done some great reissues. I think they've just done What Medicine Show. I don't
Yeah.
have a copy of that yet. I need a copy of that. Um,
Are you looking for new bands too, or are you just kind of like,
I'm looking for old bands. Andy's looking for new bands.
We have on label 51 we have I think 25 or 26 artists now.
wow?
Yeah, for 2 years it's a lot, and we have a release schedule of 25 albums this year. So we're being prolific. Um, and to help us do that, there's four or five of us working diligently. We've actually just started a crowdfunding campaign to not only raise money but to connect artists and fans in a way that kind of was lost over through the years with all the just time and the change in the music business. We're trying to decommoditize the artist experience, and build up a whole like a street team of investors who love music and who want to be part of a label and and have some fun.
Yeah, and that was kind of a lighthearted compliment, comparing Label 51 looking for new artists and Flatiron looking for old artists. There's a grain of truth in it, but like Prairie Prince is on Label 51. He's got a 50 plus year professional music career, and he's made just an amazing solo record. That's on Label 51. But by and large, Flatiron is looking for artists who are fairly well established, still making great music, and don't need all the label services. They don't need someone to break them, right? But they do need someone to take care of business, getting records manufactured, distributed in the right places. And we do that very well. So it's a slightly different mission from Label 51, which does focus on marketing very heavily.
I was
Um,
going to ask if you had a promotion department and radio people. Do you do all that, or do you reach out to outside people for that?
uh, Andy, go ahead with that.
For Label 51, we tend not to focus too much on radio, but we're going to be working uh, doing a partnership with a company that will make the announcement soon. So we're building out the company as we're flying at 30,000 feet, kind of. But we do have a promotion team that we work with for the label, and then a promotion team for the artist. So we separate that so that everybody can focus on sort of one aspect of the business. Um, but we haven't seen it's interesting. We haven't seen a lot of the PR that we've done work anymore. We get the radio, or we'll get in Goldmine's been a great fan of ours, and we're a fan of theirs, and they've been very helpful. And but I think it's more personal relationships now than the scatter shot, send out a PR to 500 people and work it.
It's really amazing now because people seem to have gotten so educated because of the internet that record stores can bring in like records and you would think, who are these bands? And then they'll sell because people just know about bands that they like more now. It's crazy. I didn't think I'm not a huge fan of the internet, but I am on every social media platform. I have
Course.
to be. But I feel like fans really not that there weren't fans before, but now when you get these hardcore fans, they want t-shirts, they want everything. Bandcamp's really good at that too.
Yeah, Bandcamp's been great, but the funny thing is and you bring it up, is that we were, back in the day when we were in the underground, we knew all the bands, we knew that, the Asexuals from Montreal or Token Entry from New York or Murphy's Law back in the day, before they got big. And now we're not part of it's the music's changed and tastes have changed. So there's bands. I saw a band the other day and I can't think of the name. They have, they're playing the Gothic Theater or the Mission. I never heard of them before.
There's a
And
Yeah,
lot of them. There's a
yeah,
lot of them.
that's
Yeah.
different. I used to feel like I had a pretty good grasp of, every indie band of any size, every indie label, plus everything going on at the majors. It just you kind of felt like you knew everything that was out there because that's your job. There's no way now. There's just no way. I want to talking about artists. I do want to make a point. Um, Rain Parade's on label 51. Might have been our first signing. I think it was certainly our first release, right? On label 51.
uh,
They are making music as good or better than they ever have. And the
yes.
recordings are doing now with Jim Hill, another old blast in the past, is sensational. And then I want to highlight and encourage people to listen to a band called Triptides. We're on label 51, much younger act, very active. We can barely keep up. In fact, we can't keep up with all the music. Glenn, the main leader of the band, is every time I turn around, here's a couple new songs, and they're all great. Um, they're very active touring. They're going to be playing Denver a week from Sunday. That's one that, if anything out there in the world of new psychedelic or I wouldn't even know how to describe triptides because they have such a variety of styles, but I do encourage people to listen to them. I think it's
Where are they
eh,
from, Bill?
they, um,
Oh,
somewhere in the Midwest, but Glenn now lives near Big Bear
yeah,
in
yeah, big band.
California. Um,
Hmm.
so that's a good one. I am a big fan, and again, the value of having contacts that came to us through Bruce Duff, who you no doubt know.
Bruce Stuff. Yep.
Bruce manages them.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Um,
probably, I mean, not to jump on the name all the bands on our label, but in the very
Name them all, please.
No,
Name them
let's
all.
Andy, come on, name all the
towards
bands.
the beginning, I got an email from somebody who said, "Hey, my name is Mano, and I have an album called Aria 51, and your label 51, so you should put out my album." And we get these all the time. Like, all right, send me the album. He sends me this album. He was a drummer in Philly, played with Ruin, not regularly, but he played with Ruin and things like and bands like that, and discovered the theremin. And he put together a 10-piece orchestra ensemble with him on the theremin, and they put out an album. They had an album, Aria 51, with the Specials Ghost Town, with David Bowie, Edith Piaf. It was how could we have not put that out? And so we did, and they just released a tango album last year, and next is all Zappa. And
Wow.
yeah, and it's gonna be
Cool.
it's brilliant. It's gonna be brilliant. And these are the off the wall things that we just love,
You
and
said you were in college radio in 1981?
80 I was in college in 81. Joined KUSF, I think, in 83.
Yeah, because I was in college radio from like 81 to 83, and then I moved to LA and started working with Bill. And but you mentioned Token Entry and Murphy's Law before, so I'm thinking, okay, this guy's got to be an old punk guy. He's talking about these bands because I have a huge hardcore and punk listening audience because I had like Greg Norton from Husker Du on and SSD, Gangrene, Jerry's Kids, all these old punk bands. And it's amazing now how popular the bands from that era, from 80 to 85 are. Like
Yep.
everyone, like Black Flag probably is going to be platinum or something, you would think. And I guess the Dead Kennedys had a gold record. Does that blow your mind?
I know it's great. I mean, it's crazy, but it's great. And to see, I mentioned the Asexuals who were around in 85, 86, 87, became the Doughboys after, or maybe even concurrently. Um, One of my favorite bands, and Ruin, the most amazing Ruin. Do you know, if you don't know Ruin, check out White
Yeah,
Rabbit.
yeah, I know Ruin. Good band.
That's White Rabbit is like their version of Bauhaus doing Bowie. It's how it should have been done the first time. Um, but all those bands are just were so good and so different than what came after Green Day. Not to shit on Green Day at all, but it's just changed.
You just remind me of another reason why I loved my early career so much. When I worked at Green World, Keely Dietrich was sitting next to me. You remember Keely Dietrich,
Oh
Bill, of
yeah,
course. And she was like totally into Bauhaus and Joy Division and all. She was into that whole scene. I had Daniel Ash come on my podcast, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And I wrote Keely just to tell her because she's the one that turned me on to all that music. It was because of Green World. We were getting all these great
Yeah.
imports.
We have David J as part of our label. And
Really?
he's got a project called The Night Crickets. Album is brilliant. It's a cross between Love and Rockets and other stuff. And Victor DiLorenzo from the Violent Femmes is on drums. And the
Wow.
Bay Area musician Darwin Miners, who put it together, is on bass. Great bass player. And it's just a brilliant album. Yeah.
I'm a huge Love and Rockets fan. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
check
it's
out the
like,
Night Crickets album.
not that I didn't like Bauhaus and, the previous Tones on Tails. Tones
Yeah.
on Tails came through. We had distributed that too.
Yeah.
We had like all the great imports back then. Sorry, man, I'm all over the place. It's because of you, Bill. I'm just excited to. So, someone told me that you guys are involved with manufacturing too. You manufacture the vinyl, or you're working with a vinyl plant? What's that
Well,
all about?
we started pressing business. That was the first thing Bill started. Oh, you got to tell the origin story of that, Bill, because it's too funny.
Is Bill there?
Is he?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, we thought
okay.
we
Can you hear
lost
me?
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like I just had a little glitch. Anyways, my cat says hello to your cat, by the way, Steve. Who
Did
your
you
cat
see
just
my
moved.
cat?
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
Yeah.
you?
In the background, he's in the back there. Was.
Oh, he's sleeping on the bed over here.
yeah. There's my cat.
You wouldn't believe how many times this happens when I'm doing these Zooms with my podcast. Everyone wants to show me their cat and they all want to see Cam. Cam's Camden, Maine, named after a town in Maine. So he's sleeping right now. He's like, I don't
Yeah.
don't talk about me. But so where is this manufacturing plant that
Um,
you have?
it's near Krakow, Poland,
Whoa. Okay.
and it's essentially a partnership. We don't own the entire factory, but we do own 14 vinyl presses that are located there, which is a pretty good investment.
What does that
And
mean? Like a vinyl press, how much vinyl can you make on one pressing machine when you say you have
they
14 of them?
You can make one vinyl record about every 24 and a half seconds.
Wow.
And then, you know, downtime when you wear out a stamper or change a job, whatever. But, um, and that's on an automatic machine. There's a lot of nuances there, but, 800 in a work shift is pretty typical, 8 hour work shift.
So
And
each machine.
yeah.
Mm.
And depending how busy you are, you can run 24/7, 7 days, around the clock, 7 days a week. if you're not as busy, maybe you run two shifts or don't work on Sundays. Um, yeah, so I don't know. It's
But
probably
we
coming
met
up on.
the origin story is that Bill met through Leonardo a guy in Krakow who worked at the factory and through their shared love of Italian prog rock is how this whole
Yeah.
thing came together.
Yeah. So I was talking to Leonardo, who I've known, again, the guy from Moon June who has Stickman, is how I met Tony Levin. So um, Leonardo and I've been in touch over the years, just shared love of music. And he said, I have a friend in Poland who has been making my CDs for a long time and is getting into the vinyl business and is looking for some help to grow his vinyl business. Are you interested? Do you have time to, give him a hand, maybe find some customers in the US? Said, sure. A guy named Andre, and then he added, Leonardo added, you and Andre will get along great. You both love King Crimson. So I was like, okay, brothers in Prague, right? Um, I do love how prog rock has lost a little of its. It used to be almost it was hard to admit you're a prog fan. It seems like it's okay now.
It's
That
funny
if
because Mike Portnow and Tony Levin, it's like the meeting of the old Prague and the new Prague, you know?
Yeah. Although
Yep.
Tony has a funny story when Bob Ezrin, who had been hiring Tony as a session player on stuff like Lou Reed and projects like that, wanted to hire him for Peter Gabriel's first album. Tony had no idea who Peter Gabriel was and never heard of Genesis, right? Because
Wow.
because Tony was a jazz guy, right? A classical musician, later trained in jazz, later a session player for like Paul Simon, and you can go on Wikipedia and
Tons
see all
of
the sessions,
people.
but but look how that's lasted. Tony is still in Peter's band, and if you listen to the Peter Gabriel stuff that's just come out, Tony's all over it. Um, and that relationship goes what back 50 years exactly now. Um, so where
Wow.
was it? Well, that's how we got in touch with Andre. This was actually like 2017 um, that I first,
Poland?
yeah, that I connected with Andre in Poland, and it took a while, but eventually we started a little business, just taking a few orders from United States customers for vinyl, and this is 2020 probably,
Hmm.
um, when there was a wild disequilibrium between vinyl demand and vinyl capacity. There just were
Insane.
not enough factories and demand was growing. And then COVID hit and everyone's sitting at home wishing, well, I'm sitting at home, wish I had more records. And so at that point, the Polish people asked us, hey, could you help us buying some more presses? And that's kind of when I think I probably had looped in Andy before then. Um,
Yeah.
but at that point, it started to get serious. Like, hey, let's take some orders for vinyl records. Maybe we can get some free vinyl. I mean, it was a business, but I weren't thinking like, well, we're going to invest millions of dollars in this. And then when the demand was spiking for vinyl, and the Polish factory was eager to bring in more presses, we bought the presses, installed them there, and created a relationship where we would own the presses, they would operate them, we would bring in orders to run on those presses, and um, made a lot of vinyl since then.
Do you go to Poland a lot?
I lived there for almost 2 years.
You did?
Yeah,
Wow. What was that like?
I enjoyed it. I liked Poland. I liked everything about Poland except for the weather. I was not very fond of. Um, it's very gray, but I like Polish people. It's an interesting country. There's a lot of energy there. Um, I'm not sure exactly what to attribute it to. I think some of it might be very resilient people. They've had it's 1,000-year-old culture, which most of the time has done a great job of preserving their language, their traditions, their sense of being Poles. And that's not easy in that part of the world, right? Look at Ukraine. Um,
Yeah.
you have to be fairly strong-willed to pull that off. And most of that 1,000 years, they were ruled by some other, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I think they were part of the Swedish Empire. Um, Germans have occupied part of the country at various times, or all of it, World War II. So just part of the culture to have a certain strength. And during the Cold War, when they were behind the Iron Curtain, because they were right on the doorstep of Germany, they were very aware of what life was like on the other side. And um, when the wall came down, and it came down in Poland, I think amongst the first because of the labor movement, the solidarity labor movement. And there was all this pent up energy to be entrepreneurial, to have a certain freedom, to be able to travel. And people with the education and capability of culture to take advantage of that. So I think Poland is the second fastest growing economy globally behind China over like the last 30 odd years.
That's incredible. I never would have guessed that.
So,
I, I I
yeah,
get nervous for those people with being next to the Russians, man. It's
I,
got to be nerve-wracking.
if I was Russian, I would be nervous about messing with the Polish people, right?
Mhm.
It's good to hear.
Again, very serious people, my takeaway is they're very honest, they're very hardworking. Um, they uh, take education seriously. Um, and they have an opportunity the younger people, and even the people in their 40s and 50s realize they have an opportunity that their parents and grandparents didn't have to make something of their lives, and they're very serious about it. It was an energy you had in the United States post World War II that I think has dissipated a little here. And living there, I really felt that difference, the difference in the energy and the seriousness about career. Now, obviously, doesn't apply to everyone, but taking the country as a whole felt very different than the U.S. And
I could probably deal with the weather a little better than you since I grew up with New England weather. So, and I remember going to Holland when I worked for Roadrunner, and it was very gray there. I remember that the gray. I know what you're talking about when you describe it that way. You guys are like into a lot of stuff, man. This is fantastic. It's funny because I got an email out of nowhere. And I wrote back, and it was D, I guess. And I wrote back, who are you guys? And then all of a sudden, Bill is emailing me. I'm like, what?
That's funny.
But do you guys want to plug something before we split here that we may not have mentioned?
We have a couple of I'll just quickly go through the new releases we have coming out. We have Wall of Voodoo Museums, which is a live album with Andy Preboy. We just released. We have Sister Double Happiness, the double. It's a remastered debut album with an extra disc of demos that Jack and Dino produced. Um,
Nice.
and Jim Hill mastered that. The great thing about it was Gary Floyd, their singer, passed away 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, and he got to hear the remastered versions before he passed away, and he loved it, and so that makes it just really special. They were a very very special and influential Bay Area band. We have the Prairie Prince album, and then we have an album with Rick Springfield and the Bissonette brothers coming out for Record Store Day, a power pop album that is just fantastic, called The Locusts.
What?
Um,
Greg Bissonette?
yeah, Greg and Matt Bissonette. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rick Springfield, man. He's like he looks really good for his age. I mean, like I don't know what he's doing, but he's
Does.
doing it.
I saw Rick Springfield last summer, and well, I hope we do more projects with him. It was a great show. I was blown away,
Yeah.
and he did take his shirt off halfway through, and every female you know, that I could see around me was like losing it. He's 74 or whatever, 75.
78,
Um,
I think 70. Anyway. But And then we have
Incredible.
oh, and then we have this young singer, Bree Stoner, who is from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and grew up
Bree
in
Stoner.
yeah, real name.
Bree. That's a great name.
Real name, real name. And she's she's playing at South by Southwest this year and is just a beautiful produced by David Vanderveld from not Crack no Father John Misty's band and it's very dream pop Mazzy Starish uh just a super cool, and so she has a new album coming out in April, I think, or May.
In,
So
in
we,
this, yeah, you guys are doing a lot. Is it in this day and age where we are now, is it best to just send people to the Bandcamp page? Because you
yeah.
probably have everything there, right?
Yeah, everything's there. They can go to our website, label51recordings.com, and we link to Bandcamp from there, or they can just go to the Label 51 on Bandcamp.
I
Yeah.
just love, the fact that you can go to Bandcamp, listen to a song, and then you can buy it. It's just,
Yeah.
it's perfect. I think it's good for the bands too.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
we're
one other band I have to, sorry, Bill, one other band I have to mention. We have a new metal proggy band from Belarus called Mission Jupiter. Uh, just that came to us from Andre, I think, from the Present Clan.
yeah,
And
our Polish friend.
yeah, and they're great.
Wow.
And they are super interesting band, super tight musicianship, and so that you can listen to on Bandcamp also on
Yeah,
our.
and Mission Jupiter's made some really good videos.
Yep.
I would suggest checking them out on YouTube as well. All done in Belarus, and not not the easiest place to pursue a music career right now. And they're plugging away. Really good. That's a favorite of mine. I got a couple Flatiron things to plug.
Yep.
Uh, we've got a Peter Criss album out now. Came out right before Christmas. It's
Wow.
really good. Steve, you should
It's
listen to it. I think you'd be surprised. It's not streaming.
I just happen to have this right here, so I'll just hold it up here.
All right. Um, out on CD and vinyl. I think, you know, we'll send you a CD. Um,
Nice.
Peter does not
Why
like
not vinyl?
well, we can send you vinyl. Peter does not like streaming, so it is out physical product only. And iTunes. You can get it on iTunes. Um, it's really good. I mean, the players on it, John Five, Paul Schaefer. I mean, and listen to Peter sing. He
You
does not
guys are into
his
all kinds
stage.
of stuff, man. You guys have a lot going on. Wow.
But I got a couple more. Um, I've been wondering when protest music would come back because it's a pretty good time for it, and it's
John
happening.
Truby.
Well, no,
that's
but
a whole other story.
yeah, there. I would like to do some stuff with Truby, and we've been talking to him. I'd like to reissue his first album,
I
but
have my signed John Truby records, man. He wrote like an entire book on the front cover. It's fantastic. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. Anyway, so you know, uh, protest music's coming back. Springsteen just dropped the single. YouTube released an EP, Ash Wednesday, yesterday that explicitly talks about the killings in Minneapolis.
Wow.
Um, Two of our artists have been motivated to put together singles that kind of talk about the politics in America right now. Green Pajamas have a track coming out tomorrow, and we have an album, EP, and album coming from them in a few months. And Chris Stamey and has taken the words.
DBs?
Yeah,
DBs?
yeah. We released a Stamey album last year that's quite good. Check it out. Um, he he took the lyrics or the words that are on the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty and put music to it and added a few lines that's really good. Comes out March 6th.
This is
Um,
good stuff, man. We need to have people speak up, and fantastic. I'm all
and
for the
then
protest era. We get the
I think we're
Dropkick Murphys
past,
up here, so they're out there doing their share.
yeah, we get to talk about Record Store Day now. Uh, the embargo is off. So we've got a Billy Squire record coming out in Record Store Day.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Um, it's his last Capitol record, which sort of died a death. Um, really good record. Just came and went because it was, changing of the guard at Capitol Records, one of those old stories. Um, we're doing a deluxe version with a lot of, extra material. That's coming out Record Store Day. And, a ton of other stuff. Russ Tolman, we're going to release a record this spring from True West.
Yes.
I guess our mission to reissue everything from the Paisley Underground.
Yeah.
We're more than
When's
half
the
the.
when's the Plastic Land record coming out?
I
You're not gonna,
I think it came out.
there's
No, you guys are not involved with Plastic Land, are you?
we were just actually approached. So I'll leave it
Wow.
at that.
I
Um,
love Plastic Land.
we have some discussions between Bill and I to look through what's available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you know Ugly Things magazine, they did a three-part article on Plastic Land last year, or
They were
three
great.
issues.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin band, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw them play in Milwaukee one January. Probably the coldest I've ever been in my life. That was a great show.
The
We met,
Pink Dust label, we're back to, I'm sorry,
oh
man.
yeah,
We just went
Pink
back to
Dust.
1985. Sorry. The Pink
Right.
Dust label was fantastic, man.
You know,
Fantastic.
first Flaming Lips album. And there's one other one. I want Andy to talk about Derek Day.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring him up. So Derek is coming out, I think, in April with an EP. He was discovered by Steve Vai, pretty much, I think is the story, and is just a super great singer, songwriter, throwback to like almost it's almost like 70s rock with a modern twist to it. And he's been on tour with a band called Think X doing a Pink Floyd interpretation with Scott Page from Floyd and Stephen Perkins on drums and uh,
Wow.
um, uh,
Well, he's been on some recent Motley Crue recordings.
oh, he's the singer for Motley Crue when he sang for Motley Crue when at the Taylor Hawkins benefit.
And isn't he in like a Queen cover band or something?
Derek
Yeah.
Day?
Derek
Yeah.
Day is his
Yeah, I
name.
heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah, and Norwood was on bass in Think X from Fishbone. So this super group of people doing Floyd stuff, and then he does a Zeppelin thing and he
Oh, it's
sings
Zeppelin,
and
not Queen,
he does
right?
a Zeppelin thing, and he sings and plays guitar. Uh, phenomenal talent.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
guys are like a couple of, 23-year-old guys who just started a new label here, man. You like,
We are. It's like our age group has passed us by.
hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you guys doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
it's fun. Stay in touch, Steve, and
Absolutely.
send your address to Andy, and we will send you a Peter Criss album.
Yeah.
Nice.
You just have to talk about it on your podcast.
Oh, I will. I will. Hang on a second, man.